the untold story of the horror icons and the man behind the mask, plus why fat comedians rule. Published by the Hopecast Network. Chapter 9, Meet the Gang, My Circle of Oddballs. Introducing the gang, a cast of characters. When it comes to my life, it's not just about training famous horror movie killers and navigating the Hollywood landscape as the ultimate agent for my one and only Jewish client. No, my life is also a fabulous, hilarious, and often perplexing journey filled with a gang of unique characters, each one more eccentric than the last. Think of us as a ragtag group of misfits ready to tackle the world, armed only with a shared love for bad comedy and questionable life choices. If you've ever seen one of those buddy comedies where all the ridiculous characters collide, then you've got the right idea. Only our narrative doesn't quite involve the same level of budget or talent. First up, there's Jacob, the goth father. Yes, that's right. If you picture an overrated mobster with eyeliner and an affinity for all things black, you've got a perfect mental image. Jacob and I met during my fleeting flirtation with golf culture in my youth, and somehow he decided to stick around even when I moved on to the world of free spirited bike policing. He's the kind of guy who showcases his emotional depth by quoting Edgar Allan Poe while simultaneously offering unsolicited fashion advice on wearing black. Jacob is equally likely to show up to a horror movie marathon dressed as a vampire or wearing a t shirt that reads, "The only thing scarier than Jason is my dating life." Trust me, his confidence is as dark as his wardrobe. Then there's Roger, the gentle giant of the group. Picture the most colossal man you can imagine, preferably one who could bench press a small car. Now imagine that same man bending down to pet a tiny chihuahua. Roger is a lover of small dogs and an African basketball players, and in true Roger fashion, he proudly wears his love for both on his sleeve, sometimes literally, as he can often be found sporting dog-themed Hawaiian shirts. I'll never forget the time he attempted to convince me that getting a tiny dog would boost my dating life. Spoiler alert, 2 months later, I was wearing a dog costume at on Halloween while Roger charmed everyone with his own four-legged sidekick. He's a constant reminder that size doesn't dictate heart or humor. Then up next is Jonathan, the father figure of the crew. This guy puts the fun in dysfunctional family man. Jonathan believes that the best way to engage with your offspring is to trap them into a narrative about the heaters, his endearing term for cigarettes. He's always trying to convince me to indulge in his heater related antidotes, and they go something like this. The best parenting wisdom I learned was when I get caught smoking in the garage while telling my kids about the dangers of smoking. Talk about parenting at his finest. He is seemingly always occupied with putting kids to bed, yet he somehow manages to pop over for a chat during their nap time, as if parental duties only exist in an alternate universe. And how could I forget Hannah? She's not just my friend, but also became a minor celebrity in our circle, thanks to her ranking as the number one podcaster on the hit show Movie Torture. What makes Hannah extra special is her unique ability to multitask. While we're grappling with the weight of life, she's tackling hills on her four wheeler in outdoor adventures, all while dishing out hot takes on movie horrors. Honestly, I'm in awe of her ability to navigate life without breaking a sweat. Seriously, I don't know how she does it. If you've ever seen someone poop while four wheeling, I can assure you it's not an easy feat. It's a visual you can't quite erase from your mind. As for Kara, she's my Subaru partner in crime. Literally. It's hard to tell who loves our beloved Subaru more, her or me. She spends most of her time bragging about her vehicle and reminding me of how we single handedly make the world a better place by promoting subcompact cars. You should see the way she defends the brand, standing on her soapbox, which looks suspiciously like the roof of our car, and spilling Subaru secrets like they're octane gossip. If your wife drives, my friend, you're more likely to get a DUI. She can practically preach a sermon about it. Lastly, we must mention Trent, the disgruntled horror enthusiast who never misses a chance to express his disdain for Blumhouse. He lost out on a shot to train Michael Myers, and he holds a grudge fitting enough to fill a small warehouse. His conspiracy theories about Hollywood's treatment of horror are as elaborate as they are peculiar. You'd think we'd come together as a gang to support each other, but most times we're just sitting around roasting each other like marshmallows at a summer campfire of terror. In conclusion, my game is an assembly of contradictions and comic relief in my life. Together, we're the perfect mix of chaos and a companionship as we stumble through our outrageous escapades. Whether we're planning our next great adventure or just hanging out to compare the heaters to horror movies, there's never a dull moment. It's a wild ride. And despite the oddities, I wouldn't have it any other way. The Tale of Jacob, the Goth Father. Oh, Jacob. Where do I even begin with my dear friend, the Goth Father? He's a mystical creature of sorts. Not quite a vampire, though he certainly has the aesthetic down to a T. If you combine a goth's musician's wardrobe with the Shakespearean villain flair for drama, you might just scrape the surface of who Jacob really is. He has managed to fashion a life around the dark, brooding elements of existence as if he's conducting a one-man sympathy of eternal angst. Our first meeting holds a special place in my heart. A day marked by bad decisions and a touch of irony, much like most things in my life. It all started on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday in my local coffee shop, where I would often find solace in a dark roast and some decent people watching. I spotted Jacob in the corner with hair as black as the abyss, outfitted like the poster child for every dreadful 90s goth cliche. He was scowling intently at his frappuccino as if it had just betrayed him, contemplating some existential crisis that was probably only half sincere. I didn't realize it back then, but our lives were about to intertwine in a way that could only be described as the start of a horror comedy. This man speaks in poetic metaphors that makes every encounter feel like a soliloquy from a Halloween-themed Shakespeare play. One time, while walking through the park, he waxed lyrical about how the rain is Mother Nature's tears in horror or lost lovers. Meanwhile, I was just trying to figure out if I could get out of this conversation without sounding like a complete jerk. Yet, despite my best efforts, Jacob's bizarrely charming personality began to pull me in. He has the rare ability to make you feel trivial while simultaneously elevating your spirit, like getting your ears pierced in a haunted house. Is it pain? Is it joy? You'll never quite know, but it sure makes for a memorable story. Now, Jacob has this incredible knack for bringing dark humor into literally everything. So much so that I've half convinced myself he should have his own late night show dedicated to dry commentary on the world's troubles. Picture him perched on a stool dressed in all black, conditioning his hair to point upwards like a confused raven, making quips that leave both the goths and the gigglers simultaneously amused and baffled. For example, he once told me a funeral is just a gathering where people make their who deserve more sympathy rankings. His observations, although morbid, always carry a shred of comical truth, something that only a true goth father could impart. But Jacob is not just about dark humor. Alas, his passion extends into the coveted realms of murder mysteries and horror films. For him, each plot twist is an opportunity to dissect the human psyche. On one infamous occasion, he took me to a screening of a low budget indie horror flick where the script was as predictable as the weather in a rom com. Jacob, however, was not deterred. Instead, he began analyzing character motivations like he was presenting a thesis on the psychological impact of horror. See, it's not just the man behind the mask, MTD. It's about how you become the man behind the mask. And somehow, I had entered into an hour-long discussion about why a killer's relationship with his mother mattered more than character arcs in any Stanislavski play. If there were such a thing as a Goth Film Critic Award, Jacob would probably be a shoo-in. Despite his melancholic productivities, Jacob's friendships are his finest horror story. He has an uncanny ability to take ordinary social situations and turn them into a delightfully chaotic event. The time he threw a birthday party themed Lament for the Lost was unforgettable. Imagine a party where all the guests come dressed as their dearly departed. He had a ghosted ex corner, a long lost pet area, and of course, an endless supply of black balloons that floated gracefully like dark thoughts on a lazy afternoon. I was curious about eating cake, while Jacob philosophized about the nature of sweetness and how it's a mere distraction from life's irrevocable tragedies. It was the most absurdly enjoyable evening, and yet, through all the layers of laughter and lament, he somehow pulled it off like a true master of goth ceremonies. To wrap this up, Jacob holds an indelible place in my chaotic life, often reminding me that while the world may seem dismal, it's okay to laugh at it, preferably while quoting Poe and dressed head to toe in black. With his gothic heart fully exposed to the world, he has proven time and time again that humor is truly a powerful weapon, especially when slashing through the seriousness of life. So here's to you, Jacob, the godfather of chaos in my life and a true friend for all seasons, even the rainy and dreadful ones. Roger's big heart and his love for little dogs. Roger, if there were ever a man who could fill a room with laughter simply by walking in, it would be him. Picture an enormous bear of a man, nearly 7 feet tall, weighing enough to scare off a herd of wildebeest, who possesses a heart that could rival that of the Grinch after a particularly good Christmas. It's hard to reconcile the formidable physical presence with the fact that he is utterly and hopelessly in love with little dogs. Yes, Roger is a walking paradox, and every interaction with him feels like you've stumbled into the most ridiculous pet emporium imaginable. It's a place where hilarity and outlandish collide, and you can't help but get swept off in the charm of it all. The first time I saw Roger with his tiny dog, a Chihuahua affectionately named Sir Wagsalot, don't ask, it's one of those names that just sticks. My brain exploded in a mix of confusion and delight. There he was, this massive hunk of a man, sitting on a park bench with the tiniest creature nestled in his lap, looking as proud as a new father. Against all odds, Roger had found a way to remain the center of attention with his enormous self, while this little dog, with an abundance of floppy ears and spindly legs, assumed the role of queen of the universe. It was a duet the world never knew it needed. The giant and his mini sidekick, two mismatched companions embarking on an adventure as absurd as life itself. You might wonder how a guy like Roger came to adore a creature so infestimable. The answer lies in the unique sense of humor, which is large as his frame. One day, while watching pet videos online, his guilty pleasure, I've come to realize he hit upon the cuteness factor of little dogs and their ability to bring joy just juxtaposed against their small size. Look at them, he shouted with enthusiasm, nearly knocking a bowl of popcorn off the table in excitement. They might be tiny, but their hearts are the size of Texas. And there it was, Roger's big heart wrapped around a love for tiny pooches, cementing the cherished bond that would soon become the foundation of his personality in our circle. At this point, let's fast forward to Roger's social media exploits. The man has an Instagram account dedicated solely to Sir Wags-a-Lot, and he has somehow garnered more followers than many budding influencers. Every day he dresses Sir Wagalot in different outfits. Think superhero capes, tiny hats, sunglasses. The absurdity knows no bounds. Roger embraces the ridiculousness of it all as if he were the proudest parent in a kindergarten play. He'll take pictures at parks dressing his dog up as the hawk one day and a pirate the next. The hashtags are legendary. Hashtag wags and giggles. Hashtag tiny but mighty. And my personal favorite, hashtag Roger and Wags takes on the world. I often tease Roger about this fanciful account, but he simply flashes me that enormous, toothy grin and insists that it's part of his mission to spread happiness one picture of Sir Wagalot at a time. In turn, it has become a source of endless amusement for all of us. Why there was that fateful afternoon when Roger accosted me in public, proclaiming that it was time for Operation Cutie Pie, where we would invade the local dog park armed with superhero outfits for Sir Wagalot and a metric ton of treats. Picture me being dragged along like a flailing inflatable character, grumbling about how my reputation would undoubtedly be tarnished by this canine crusade. Yet somehow, amidst the giggles and dog antics, I find myself melting into the pure joy of it. It's hard not to be swept up when Roger is involved. His laughter is like a siren call that stalls inhabitants and creatures hasting lasting memories. Let's not forget Roger's infamous per adoption endeavors. He once decided he was the canine ambassador of our town. That meant he was spearheading Adopt a Sheltered Pet events, dragging me along as a reluctant wingman. It was equal parts hilarious and heartwarming, watching this towering figure trying to wrangle an energetic pack of Yorkies while the adoptive parents wrestled for attention. You want a companion for life, Roger would bellow, dramatically waving his hands like a mix between a circus ringmaster and a motivational speaker. Me and while I would stand there, half laughing, half embarrassed, thinking, this isn't what I signed up for. Despite all the craziness, Roger's love for those little companions transcends the humor. Each day he pours his heart into their care, taking Wags a lot on evening strolls and showering him with affection. There's beauty in the chaos and laughter amidst the absurdity. Roger lives to bring joy not only to his canine friend, but to everyone around him. His heart might be big, but it's the love for little dogs that makes an enormous impact that never reverberates throughout our circles. In Roger, you find the embodiment of love, laughter, and the delightful reminder that sometimes the biggest heart can come to the most unexpected packages. Jonathan, the heater loving family man. Jonathan, quintessential family man with a peculiar twist. He loves his kids, but he loves his heaters even more. If you're wondering what I mean by heaters, let me introduce you to the glamorous world of cigarettes, which, according to Jonathan, are merely tools of relaxation and contemplation. He's one of those rare gems in my life who can weave together the mundane challenges of parenthood with the thrill of lighting up outside on the front porch, while wrangling me with tales about the significance of every puff. For Jonathan, it's not smoking, it's an art form that deserves its own narrative. A perfect example of this is how Jonathan views bedtime routines with his children. It's a nightly saga straight out of a sitcom featuring cringeworthy plots and hilarious punchlines. Each evening, he embarks on the epic quest of getting his kids into bed, employing tactics that surely would earn a round of applause from the wittiest stand up comedians. Putting the kids to bed is just like running a negotiation, he once explained to me with the conviction of a seasoned diplomat. You have to establish boundaries while signaling that you're still the one in charge. I watched him dance around with his kids, using improv, puppet shows, and dramatic outbursts that would rival Broadway productions. Only now, he had a helper in the form of his trusty heater. Picture this. After running around in circles, finally coaxing the kids into bed with solid bribery, yes, I said cute bedtime stories turned into bargaining chips, he lights up his heater like it's part of the ritual. Outside, while the cool evening breeze rustles the leaves, Jonathan goes into detail, explaining how each exhale represents a moment of clarity amidst the chaos of raising children. It's a comical contradiction. On one hand, he's a father of the year, wearing pajamas adorned with cartoon characters, and on the other, he's a casually puffing away like a philosophical saga in a smoking lounge. Now, do not cancel out the charming absurdity that embodies Jonathan's character. He truly believes that sitting on the porch with his heater while his kids are asleep gives him cosmic insight. The creativity flows best at night when your responsibilities take a temporary vacation, he proclaims. Consulting his imaginary crystal ball, which is probably just a light bulb hanging above his head, it's hard to tell if he's actually into something deep or just looking for an excuse to smoke in peace. But alas, to know Jonathan is to love his utterly bizarre quirks. Speaking of family, it becomes an adventure in itself. Jonathan maintains a delicate balance between being a devoted father and providing epic tales about his life as a heater loving connoisseur. He'll cheekily drop nuggets of wisdom to me. When the kids are driving me up a wall, I just remind myself that not they're not pit stops. They're the journey. This man has the uncanny ability to turn the trials of parenting into comedic narratives. The other day, he told me about his daughter had an absolute meltdown over which brand of cereal to choose. Instead of panicking, he melted that tension into laughter by pulling off an imitation of a cereal box that could only be described as Oscar worthy. I often joke that Jonathan should think about creating his own parenting podcast, perhaps titled The Evening Therapy of a Family Guy with Heaters. He'd hold court with listeners, guiding them through the absurdities of parenthood while casually smoking in the background. And trust me, he'd deliver punchlines that consistently land, dropping wisdom like confetti at a New York Eve celebration. Listeners would surely find themselves enraptured by the tales of imaginary bedtime stories turned into superhero sagas, all delivered with the underlining tone of a man who enjoys the finest pleasures of life's vices and statistically backs it up. And there he is, watching his children grow up while keeping his penchant for heaters alive. A telling portrait of how life's absurdities often blend together. Jonathan carries within him the grace of a stumbling toddler while simultaneously wielding the insights of a seasoned philosopher who has gone through the trenches of parenting with a sense of humor as large as the heart he wears on his sleeve. It's comforting to know that within this chaotic family dinners, the often frenetic school runs, and the sleepless nights by a profound appreciation for those little moments. In retrospect, Jonathan is a gem of a friend, one who embodies the quirks of life with laughter and honesty. As the adrenaline of parenting intertwines with his love for heaters, he reminds me that anyone fortunate enough to know him, that ultimately life is the best approach with a hearty laugh, a sense of irony, and a cheesy grin. And whether or not he adopts my notion of taking smoke breaks before bed to mediate on the chaotic nature of parenting, one thing became dreadfully clear. Jonathan is a master at turning the unpredictable circus of family life into a sideshow comedy that brings joy to all. Kara and Trent, the Subaru Bond and Blumhouse Vendetta. Kara and Trent, the dynamic duo of my social circle, bound together by their shared love for Subarus and a fierce hatred for Blumhouse movies that would make even the most seasoned film critics squirm in discomfort. Their peculiar bromance, well, let's call it a kind of bond that teeters on the brink of full blown vendetta, is a source of unending comic relief and occasional bewilderment. If you ever want to understand the intricate charms of Subaru loving friendship, You'd want to peek into their quirky world where automotive passions meets cinematic outrage in the most delightful way. Kara, the reigning queen of all things Subaru, particularly radiates enthusiasm for her beloved vehicle. Picture her rolling into the parking lot, hair flowing in the breeze, and a gleam in her eye that could only come from the thrill of driving a Subaru Forester like it's a high stakes race car. You can catch her chanting about the feelings of absolute connection every time she takes a drive. It's akin to a religious experience. Each journey is treated like a pilgrimage where the divine meets the routine. It's not just a car, MTD, it's a lifestyle. She often exclaimed while nodding empathetically as if she'd just delivered the greatest truth ever uttered. I mean, who knew a compact SUV could inspire such fervor? And then there's Trent, the self declared ruler of horror fandom and the ultimate enemy of Blumhouse Productions. Now, if you think Kara is passionate, Trent takes that to a whole new level. The man lives and breathes horror, and his contempt for Blumhouse could light up a small city. They've ruined modern horror. Where's the suspense? Where's the artistry? He rants, practically waving his arms as if trying to conjure up better films with sheer theatrically. His disdain is palpable and spans across countless evenings spent debating the artistic merits of classic horrors against the tripe churned out by the production house. It's like watching a live version of a horror movie, only this time the villain is lame horror plots and cliches. I can't help but chuckle whenever they get into one of their outrageous back and forths. Recently, we attended the festival where they had blissfully ignored the speakers while passionately dissecting the layers of cheap jump scares one could expect from the next Blumhouse catastrophe. Are they really creatively bankrupt? Trent asked, his tone filled with Fox seriousness. And I nearly choked on my snack while Kara chimed in with witty commentary about jump scares being the fast food of horror cinema. Their banter, all while surrounded by actual filmmakers and critics, was a perfect blend of insanity and hilarity. I secretly wish I could record it all for the podcast episode, The Subaru Chronicles and the Vendetta of Blumhouse. The madness continues when they start combining their passion for Subarus and horror movies in increasingly eccentric ways. There was a time they took a weekend trip, road tripping, of course, in Kara's pristine Subaru, strategically planning to stay away from any horrible Blumhouse themed locations. They even went so far to map out a route that would allow them to avoid any place that resembled haunted attractions or poorly reviewed horror sites. Last thing we need is another movie location inviting us to suffer at their hands, Trent insisted, while Kara nodded vigorously, making a pit stop at the first roadside diner they found, declaring it the safest place for nourishment. I must admit, their adventures often led to unexpected hilarity, like the time they decided to host a Blumhouse movie night, just to mock the very genre they loathed. With every jump scare on screen, they mysteriously rose from the couch, laughing into dramatic commentary that would put a Shakespearean play to shame. Oh, look, Trent exclaimed diversely while pointing at the screen. I can't wait for the cardboard villain to pop out of nowhere and ruin my evening. Kara countered by diving into the elaborate impersonation of the hapless protagonist stumbling through the dimly lit hallway, making grotesque sounds effects that had me clutching my sides in laughter. You'd think the extent of their creative hatred for Blumhouse would disdain others, but it only seems to draw people in. Their Subaru loving alliance is a heartfelt banner that spans our socially conscious gatherings, creating an inviting environment each time we all get together. In fact, I disarray they've grown into an unofficial horror comedy combo. The Subaru duo known just for car rides, but for their ability to form a hilarious commentary over the piece of fluff that dare insult the genre. While Kara and Trent may be an unlikely pair, their friendship is a humorous Harmonious blend of passion, parody, and unprecedented determination to fuel debate about cinematic standards. Together they forge ahead, navigating the roads of life like their beloved Subaru, smooth, sturdy, and defiantly unbothered by the horror of mediocrity. Here's to that unbreakable bond, riding side by side, joyfully screaming for the death of bad humor movies around the bends. The Hopecast network has reached out to MTD for further questioning. His location has not been aware at this time.